Welcome to AstroEnergy with astrologer angel Shelley Overton. Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, February 6th, 2018 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I am very happy to be with you here today. I'm actually coming at you from the past. I am coming at you from Sunday the 4th because I will be working out of town and am unable to do this live. So if you're wondering why the boards aren't open for phone calls, that is why. So anyway, we have a good amount to talk about here because Aquarius is now in full force, in full bloom today. And we are going to be talking also about the disagreement between Neptune and Mars. So it'll be an interesting show, but I'm probably going to end up talking a little bit about celebrity charts at the end, just so you have a little bit more information since we're not taking calls today. But anyway, it's all good. I'm sure you'll forgive me for not being live today, but you do get the information, so that's a good thing. Okay, so today I'm doing this as Tuesday. So today, February 6th, we have, at 11 o'clock, we have 6 degrees Taurus rising here in Orlando. And so there's nothing going on in the first quadrant of the zodiac in this chart. So you may say, well, I have a chart. My natal chart doesn't have anything in the house. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean that that part is not affecting your life or that you're somehow lacking, which seems to be the inference whenever I get that question. It actually just means that the energy of that part of the sky influences you when planets transit through that part of the sky. So right now, Taurus has nothing in it per se. I'm not doing an asteroid chart here for this reading, but there's nothing in that part. So we aren't really necessarily seeing a lot of pure Taurus energy expressing itself right now. But we do have Venus, the ruler of Taurus, going through Aquarius today. And so that does influence Taurian energy and things that are naturally Taurian or from Taurus. So I have a friend's daughter who is a Taurus, and she's got a very big year coming up because she's 18. She's trying to graduate high school, and she's doing ballet at the same time, which has been difficult. And then she has Uranus going into Taurus, and she's also been trying to get her driver's license. So Uranus moving into Taurus, and I will tell you, as it does get closer and closer, we're going to be seeing it kind of in that pre-mode. We're going to feel it before it actually goes in. We're going to start to feel money issues. I was just reading in the news this week that Bitcoin is getting more regulated. It's being really scrutinized by other countries right now, and it went down recently, but I predicted that would happen because what we had this really strong energy around Bitcoin at the beginning of the year, and then it kind of backed off as we started realizing that, wow, this could be a thing. And so, of course, now we have to have systems in place for that to happen. And all the Capricorn energy will definitely make sure that that happens. So when Uranus goes into Taurus this year, my friend's daughter is going to really want to get out and on with her life. And I already start to see hints of that coming into her world. She was a rather coddled daughter, like in her middle school years, and the ballet just took up so much of their time as a family that now she's getting older and has her own drive to go do something, and that energy is infusing her with even more desire to be free from the family unit. So even though she doesn't have any planets directly influencing her today, she is being affected by Taurus, and that is true for anybody with a Taurus sun. You will be affected wherever Venus is. And so it just means that the planets going through that part of your chart will influence you when they're in that part of the sky. So you may not have as much going on, say, like today, Gemini is in the second house as we speak, and as you're listening to this. And so, nothing's going on there, but it will influence you when planets go through there. And it does mean that you have a natural inclination. If you have a Taurus rising and no planets in the second house, you still have a natural inclination to having multiple streams of income, because that's what Gemini rules, and that's the influence of that part of the sky. So hope I cleared that up. Anyway, so since there's nothing in the first quadrant, I'm going to just jump to the North Node, which is in Leo. The South Node's in Aquarius. So we are dealing with issues of friendship and place in the world and connectedness and relationships on a more karmic level right now. The North Node, Leo, is about expressing energy through transitioning out of detachment, which is ironic because there's so much going on in Aquarius, the sign of detachment, and being more attached, because Leo is about being attached to people and really connecting and understanding relationships. So I have to tell you, I hugged my daughter, and now I'm having a cat reaction. I don't think she remembers having hugged her cat at her dad's house before picking me up. She picked me up for dropping off my car and for work, and I apologize if I pop out in and out here. I'm just muting so I can snuffle or sneeze, so I apologize. Anyway, and really looking at the chart right now, only the North Node is in the lower half of the chart as I speak. And so for we also have the moon at 6 degrees Scorpio, and that's above the horizon. So everything I'm looking at, with the exception of the North Node, is in the above the horizon. So during the day, at least from Orlando's perspective, all the planets are in the sky, and there's nothing going on behind the scenes. And if you look at it symbolically, which of course astrology is, everything is above the horizon. Everything is open and above board, with the possible exception of Uranus, which is in the 12th house. So you're finding that things are coming to light. Information is expressed. Now we have the moon at 6 Scorpio, and so the moon is in square to Mercury. And that means Mercury is at 9 Aquarius. I'll just list them off. Mercury at 9 Aquarius, South Node at 14 Aquarius, Sun at 17 Aquarius, Venus at 24 Aquarius. So it's a high concentration of energy in Aquarius. And then Uranus is still in Aries, and he is sextile by degree, within 1 degree of Venus. So getting back to the moon is squaring Mercury. So moon, emotion, family life, Scorpio, hidden, wanting to be protective of emotion, being doubtful potentially of your value or your place, but knowing that you have a strong insight into people's psyche. Scorpio is about the psyche. Moon in Scorpio, it's harder to pull things over on people today because of that. And on top of it, you have Mercury in Aquarius, and Aquarius sees things clearly from an electrical standpoint, from a thought standpoint. So analytically, Mercury is going, oh yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from with this, and I understand all the nuances and the information from multiple sides. It's not just one way, but I understand it from many angles. And the two are squaring each other. So while a square can be difficult, you're going to have the soft, fuzzy, warm side of things kind of battling it out with the intellectual side today. It means that, and I can tell you, having Moon in Scorpio and having a Sun with 3 major planets in Aquarius with an Aquarius rising, that's probably an indicator that we're going to have mothers and sons, or mothers and children who are intellectually stimulated at odds today. So if you're having a battle, if you're a mom having a battle with your child over something, you're coming at it from a completely emotional standpoint, and they're coming at it from a completely intellectual one. And neither is right or wrong. So, just know that the moon is moving. The moon's going to be transiting on, and will join up with Jupiter tomorrow. And so when the moon joins Jupiter, that will be the time of attachment. And it is, Jupiter rules education. I'm kind of speaking to myself, but I'm also speaking to those with children in college or in school. It is somewhat of a detaching energy. It's an energy that says, let it go, move on, be a little bit more self-interested and not so absorbed in other people's stuff. That's because the moon is also today in positive aspect sextile, which is 60 degrees away from Saturn at 5 degrees Capricorn. And Capricorn, as you know, is about structure and about steadfastness, about doing what you said you'd do, and responsibility and ownership. And so the moon is very much involved in that intensity and the emotion, and really kind of a protective mode. And moon always gets positive reinforcement from Capricorn because it's an opposite sign. Cancer, moon ruled, opposite Capricorn. So in sextile, it's a really wonderful day where the authority of the situation or the structure of the situation will ultimately defer to the moon or the emotion today. Yes, there is structure. Yes, there's pragmatism, but it is about emotion and intensity. And the Scorpio energy is also legalities. And so, from a standpoint of structure of law, Saturn understands that. So, Scorpio and Capricorn are pretty compatible is what I was going to say, simpatico. So we have this really cooperative energy going on between the powers that be, or the hierarchy, and the support network behind the scenes, and that is the moon. And then, of course, tomorrow when the moon joins up with Jupiter, we're going to have much more intensity and expansion going on. This can also be an energy where we see some movement, again, with spirituality, with education, with especially educational cooperation around what we've found out recently from sex scandals and people who have hidden information. It's going to come out. So Wednesday is a really good day for a lot of that energy to express. And it could also be contentious because while Aquarius isn't specifically a power structure per se like Capricorn is, it is around having the upper hand and really does like to win at what it does. It's the genius, and the ego side of Aquarius likes to be the one who knows everything. It is a higher octave vibration of the Gemini/Mercury energy, so you're getting much more intensity and power plays Aquarius than you might normally, because the sun, ego, is also in Aquarius. So we've got that really potent Aquarian energy squaring off with the moon as well. And then we have Venus. Venus isn't, she's a separating aspect from a square to Jupiter. So probably earlier in the week or early over the weekend you had, and honestly the Super Bowl was Sunday, and you'll know who the winner was by now, but I won't. So there's going to be a really strong battle for sure over what's going on there. But the ones that are better strategists are going to win. So it'll be interesting to see who actually wins when I get back. I'm going to do a job, like I said, out of town. So when I get back, it'll be really interesting to see who took the Super Bowl trophy. Anyway, we've got Mars at 6 degrees Sagittarius. Again, Jupiter is the energy, the ruler of Sagittarius. So it's about education, transformation, expansion, like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. It wants to take off. It wants to go. It is also the energy of the lower half of the body and exercise and movement. So right now, specifically for the next month, and we'll look it up here real quick. For the next month, we're going to have Mars in Sagittarius all the way to the 18th of March. So it is about travel. It is about expression of energy around religion, around music, around exercise, the physicality of our body, and health of our body. So now is a really good time to start those diet/exercise routines. I've done a lot of dictation on my phone when I text everyone. You can kind of tell I start talking like I'm texting. I'm sorry, but anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, Mars is male energy. So for the next month and a half, male energy is really expressing in a playful manner and really wanting to seek out the wisdom of the universe. And coupled with the sextile to all the Aquarius planets, that's Mercury and, the Sun and Mercury will be feeling this. You're going to get a lot more clear-mindedness, a lot clearer thought around what you want to do. I would say be a little cautious around how you're moving, because it could mean you could have leg issues or ankle issues. Even though it's a positive sextile, there could be, the unexpected energy of Aquarius can put you in a position you don't expect, obviously, and that would potentially with the legs, with the Mars energy, they're the vulnerable part of the body. So we've got Saturn in Capricorn. And Saturn in Capricorn, as you know, he is in his own sign. It is structure, and again, sextile to the moon. And let me see if there's any other sextile also coming up on an approach 7-degree orb. So that means that's within my wheelhouse of effect. So I consider anything 8 or less to be within the orb of an approaching sextile or approaching aspect. So Saturn is sextile also to Neptune. So the interesting combination of Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter all talking to each other in positive aspect, you're going to see dreams come true, higher expansion of spirituality and connectedness to religion, connectedness to your higher self. Having Neptune sextile Saturn, you would think would be really positive, and it is, but I've noticed recently a couple different things, news stories that really do pertain to Saturn and Neptune. And really, actually, also Pluto is within sextile also to Neptune within a 7-degree orb on the other side. So he's in Capricorn sextile to Neptune at 12 Pisces. And what's going on is in Cape Town, South Africa, they're having a water shortage. And I've seen videos where there's actual leaking of water out of the pipes in the city. And they are literally on restriction right now. I have a YouTuber that I watch who she and her boyfriend just moved to South Africa for some business reasons, and they are having to get bottled water for their drinking water, and even that is starting to disappear. And I really don't know what they're going to do, honestly. They're trying to resolve the issue, but it's becoming an international news story because Cape Town is actually running out of water, and they say that they haven't had rain in a while. So if you get a chance, put that into your prayers for Cape Town to have some rain. The other story I read about a lack of water is the farmers just over the border in Mexicali, Mexico. They've got some difficulty. The farmers are not getting water because there are companies that are setting up right on the border and doing due diligence to get water and take water from the wells that feed their farm wells, even on their property. I read the article just before I started the podcast, and they are doing covert vetting of the wells so that they can use it for making beer just north Lake Tecate, and all the different breweries that are right on the border. They're trying to take away the water, and it's already starting to dry up for the farmers. So that is a really strong issue that we're going to be seeing over the next decade and a half with Neptune in Pisces. And again, Saturn in Capricorn is structure and hierarchy. So while we are, these are issues that have been going on behind the scenes, but they're now coming out. In the article, they said that this man had to actually sue to find out who was taking the water and what they were doing with it, what they intended to do. So that is the Jupiter expansion of the covert operations. So interestingly, as Jupiter comes to retrograde, we're going to see more Saturn behavior. And of course, that happens in March also. So March 9th, Jupiter will retrograde. And when Jupiter retrogrades, I definitely see the energy of a Saturn vibe expressed. So it'll be more restrictive and more structured. What has gone on, what we found out, will now be taken to task. So it's really interesting transit as Jupiter says, well, I'm not too concerned about what I do now. And, in Scorpio, obviously that's all of the stuff that's been coming out around abuse of power over like the gymnasts or in Hollywood or politically. It's all that same stuff. It's you can't do that anymore. But as Jupiter retrogrades for the year, so this is a whole process that the planets have, and Jupiter goes forward. It kicks up the dirt. It kicks up all the information. Then it retrogrades and says, okay, now what are we going to do about it? Do you know what you just said? I mean, it may even worry that it shouldn't have said something, like it shouldn't have brought out some of these issues. But at the same time, it wants to concretize or shore up what has been expressed. So we're going to see, the debate and what are we going to do about it? How's it going to affect us in the future? And again, I've said it in another podcast, but it'll probably be a debate over whether some of these accusations are real. So we're going to see that over the course of the summer. And then I believe Jupiter goes direct in July. Yeah, July 11th. So, March, April, May, June, and part of July, we'll be seeing those areas affected. Again, all the Scorpio area. So it's psychology. We'll probably hear more about the psychology of the perpetrators, too, in coming months because of that Scorpio connection. And then as Jupiter moves forward, and we also have a lot of Aquarian intellectual energy saying, this is something that has to be addressed for the humanitarian purposes. And of course, Venus, like I said, today's in Aquarius, so she's kind of ready to be an activist. It's very much activist energy. Aquarius is the sign of humanity and humanitarianism, and sociology, or I want to say socialism. It's anything where groups of people come together for a common purpose. So you'll see that. And then let's see what else we have here. So Pluto at 19, he's getting ready to go one more degree and go into the next decan of the zodiac, which shifts him out of, let me see here. He's Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So he's going into the Virgo, roll your sleeves up, get to work decan. And of course, he's going to retrograde this year and get back into 19. He'll be in 19 again. And here I am, Stuffy. I'm so sorry. Let me see. He'll be in 19 halfway through July and back into back retrograde through the summer. And then he goes back direct, and he'll be at 19, entering this decan again in December, mid-December. So we have a little hint of what it's going to be like until mid-July. And that means that from, let me even see here. See, I said February. Yeah, he enters the 7th of February.
so Wednesday. So tomorrow he'll be in the next decan. And so from then until, I'm just looking at how long it takes him to get back to 19. From February 7th until July 14th, we'll see much more practical forward motion. I have to tell you, I've got construction going on all over my city, main thoroughfares that I take into Orlando, which quite honestly was just worked on and expanded like a year ago, and now they're working on it again to do the overpasses. And so you're going to see a lot more of that in the next few months until July. And then it'll get back into the middle decan, which again is Taurus decan. And so right now, honestly, it's about finances and the markets and what we're feeling about the structure of the markets. And it's interesting because Pluto going into the next decan, which is the Virgo decan, and also having just been in the Taurus decan, at the end of that, now it's the practical, what are we going to do about it, the service and work segment, and also medical. And this week we just had Amazon, and I can't remember the other two companies, basically come out saying that they're going to take their healthcare in-house. So I think it's Berkshire Hathaway, which is not Rupert Murdoch. The other one. I always confuse them. I just talked to my aunt about this. The other guy who owns Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett. I almost said Jimmy Buffett. Warren Buffett, he and Amazon and one other entity, I think maybe Microsoft, but I can't remember, taking their healthcare in-house. So having this Pluto right on the trigger cusp of Taurus to Virgo, and then having all the Aquarian energy with the people. You have Jupiter in Scorpio looking at the psychological entities and energy. You're going to, and you got Uranus going into Taurus in May. So there's a lot of shift going on around health and diet, the earth signs, so Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn, and then Uranus going into Taurus, and then Pluto going into the Virgo decan will definitely influence the Virgo energy, and especially very focused come September of this year, when all the sun and the quicker moving planets go into Virgo. It's very much now, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do in the systems? What are we going to do with the people, the work, the health aspect of it? Healthcare is going to be big, really big by September. And it's a talking point. And it seems to have been for a while anyway, which, of course, Pluto's been in that in the Taurus decan. So it's been about diet and drugs, which can also bring in the Neptune and Pisces energy. And now I think I'm just wandering out here in astrological space. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this segment up and take a break, and then we're going to come back and I will find a chart to evaluate, and we can talk about that on the other half of the show. So we'll talk to you in a minute.
In these days of stress, running around, responsibilities, we all need a little place to go to make it all better. Is that place sports, football, or maybe you like to garden, paint, or just listen to music? Wherever your happy place is, you can find a shirt or mug to reflect that happy place. At myhappyplace.rocks, we have a variety of lifestyle products, including iPhone cases, pajamas, and pet items, all with beautiful, colorful designs, which help us go to our happy place. Stop by on the web for great gift ideas for others and yourself. myhappyplace.rocks. Lenny Pickett appears courtesy of Random Act Records. Check them out at randomactrecords.com. Hello and welcome back. You are listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show with me, your host, Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I do private readings as well. And if you're interested in one of those, you can do it a couple different ways. The first way is to go to astrologerangel.com and click schedule a reading, or you can also book on Facebook. This is kind of a new thing I haven't really promoted very much, but Facebook has a book now button on they don't, I do. Facebook, on my Facebook astrologer angel page, there's a book now button. If you go to that page, you can also get me that way. And there's a jet going overhead. Yay. Anyway, also I wanted to let you know that I have, and I haven't talked about this much, but those who are longtime listeners know that I'm an artist as well as an astrologer. And I have a website for my art, and I blog about art and what I'm doing with that, and that's dottedsky.com. But I just set up my Patreon page to support. If you have any interest in supporting the arts, you can go there, and it is basically patreon.com/dotted sky or backslash. I never remember. Anyway, dotted sky. And so you can check out what I've got there. I've been posting videos of the art as I do them and do time-lapse videos, which brings me around to YouTube. I'm also on YouTube if you want to look me up there. I think if you type in dotted sky Artful Shelley or Astrologer Angel, the site will come up. I don't have a dedicated name on YouTube yet, but my videos do have tags, and you can get me. Anyway, okay, so I was just going to go over, probably briefly, we probably won't stay here on the on this topic, but I was just going to go over some of the news stories that I see going on and kind of give you an idea of what would indicate why that would be astrologically. So, we've got a lot of different things going on in the news right now. So today, Super Bowl, and I think we already talked about Mars in the Super Bowl, but honestly, it's pretty amazing that now we've got Mars in Sagittarius, which means we're probably going to have a lot of people who want to be out on the field. Like, I know there may be other years where Mars may be in a different position. If Mars were in Pisces, or even especially, let's do Libra. If Mars were in Libra, there would be more of an interest in, hey, yeah, I know it's Super Bowl, you can go out, I'll take my turn, much more cooperation. But Mars in a fire sign, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be like Goliath, like mammoth. I don't even know what the word is. So, looking back, again, today is Sunday for me, but you'll be able to look back and go, oh, yeah, it was or it wasn't. But Mars in Sagittarius is like that expression of male energy through sports. So it's going to be a real battle, as I can tell. And again, strategy wins the day. Moon arriving at Jupiter later. Let's see, that'll be tomorrow, but it's approaching. So, the ones that are pretty, I want to say sneaky, sly, covert, they're probably going to have an advantage. So I don't know if either one has that in their management to be a little bit more cards to the chest, but that'll definitely factor in. So we also have probes going on. I'm going to go, I was on the Guardian site, but I'm going to go to a different one. I'm not going to say which one. I'm just going to do it for national news, so you can kind of get an idea of more news stories. So we just had a memo come out, and memo against information. I'm honestly kind of surprised. Well, they probably released it electronically, which would make sense with Mercury and Aquarius. I doubt they sat there and handed out a bunch of paper copies of it. So, yeah, so it was probably released electronically. But again, Mercury and Aquarius, information coming out. Let's see what else we have here. Singer passed away for the Temptations. Lead singer for the Temptations died. We still have, lead singer. Singer is Sagittarius. So Mars going into a new sign. That actually came out right as Mars went in on, I think it was Friday. Let me look and see here. Because, yeah, Mars just changed signs last week.
And sorry, I'm just looking up here, so I'm trying not to keep in mind. No, it wasn't. It was actually a little bit sooner than that, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the 26th. So it's been there since Sagittarius went into, or Mars went into Sagittarius. So that tells me that Mars in Sagittarius and the moon's arriving at Sagittarius also in a few days. So, or 2 days. So we're going to see probably more singers in the news and out in the spotlight. Hopefully no more passings, but yeah, we'll have that coming up. I'm sorry, I'm probably not sparkling and witty today. I'm just, normally I talk to people at this point, and I really love talking to people, but it wasn't my regular time, so I didn't really want to change times on the podcast to be able to open up the phone lines, so I just thought I'd fill it with conversation. But the halftime show here, and celebrities are Justin Timberlake and Pink. So entertainment also every year. I don't even know. I'm rambling at this point. Let's find somebody's chart to pick apart so we can do more interesting things. Let's see who I have. I have a whole bunch of celebrities that we could pick apart. I shouldn't say pick apart, but look into. Let's look into Prince Charles. He caught my eye only because so much is going on over in England, I feel, and the Queen just gets older and older, and now Harry's going to be getting married this coming year. So his chart, he was born November 14th, 1948 at 9:14 p.m. in London, England. And one of the things I love about the royals is we know when they were born to the minute, because it's always put out in the public arena. So we always know. So, yeah, anyway, he has a Leo rising, a 5-degree Leo rising, and he has Pluto in Leo in the first house. So this is an interesting thing. Planets in the first house very strongly affect us. And I can tell you, I have Moon, Neptune conjunct in Scorpio in the first house with the Scorpio rising. And I'm only now even seeing it because, Neptune is no self-awareness, or there is self-awareness, and I do go deep, but it is an area where you don't always see how it's connected right away. You have to kind of get some perspective. And he's got Pluto, which means that there's a lot of covert stuff going on with him. Pluto they keep their cards really close to the chest. And in the first house, it means he's keeping his personality in check for the people. And I can tell you, Pluto in Leo, he is a connector. He is somebody who does want to really be validated by the masses. And I think that's part of the thing he has not gotten in his life. He definitely has had a bad rap from everything. I mean, I really did not like him, of course, because I was a big Princess Diana fan. So I had a very difficult time with how he was treating her. But at the same time, being an astrologer, I also know that when you look into a person's chart, every life is that we have specific reasons for coming in and living our lives and purposes. And so you can look at his chart and go, well, what's his deal? What's his problem? Or why did he treat Diana so poorly? Or why did he, connect to his wife now, Camilla? So I'm so sorry. I've got to sneeze here. Hang on. Okay. So anyway, he's got this strong need to connect, probably mommy issues. We all have mommy issues. Let's just be real. Even if we have a loving mother, we may have too loving a mother. I mean, there's always going to be mommy issues, in my opinion, because we're always going to have the dynamic of nurture versus breaking free and being our own person. So I'm scanning here. He has a Taurus moon, which can make him a bit more mean to women, honestly, and very well, and not intentionally mean per se, but Taurus, again, it's ruled by Venus, but it is the energy of materialism and value. And so he can see mother in a more pragmatic sense, and his moon falls into his 10th house, which is the Capricorn ruled house. And again, it's in Taurus, so it's very earthbound, very practical in a lot of sense. But moon in Taurus means that it's slow. And this is interesting. I actually think the queen has probably become more approachable by her family the older she gets. But moon in Taurus means that it is a slower relationship to mature, so to speak. And so, and he does have a connection to the elderly, with, mothers, like his mother, and also I think the queen mom, who was his mother's mother, he probably had a stronger bond with. So having Leo in the first house, interestingly, and of course because royalty, Leo rules royalty. And so having Pluto there, it's about the things that are hidden or that are understood on a deeper level and a psychological level, but some is kept away from the public eye. So he gets kind of called out a year when the sun goes through, because the sun will shine a light on his Pluto. And so he may tend to come out and be more approachable from late July to late August, when the sun comes into his Leo. And I think the queen is Leo too, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be a very strong connection there as well to the queen. Sirius, the asteroid Sirius, which is about nurturing and food. So I would say with what he has, he definitely could do more creative endeavors and is a more creative person. He can also be or come across as arrogant because of the Leo energy, and especially because Pluto tends to protect the self, protect anyway. In the first house, it is very protective. So he's not going to really show his true nature. You might catch glimpses, like I said, every year when the sun shines there. It's almost like he doesn't have the ability to not express himself the way he truly is emotionally. So if you really want to know what he's like more in private, then just see what he's doing around August. Anyway, let me look back on the chart of what's going on for him. So he's got Jupiter at N degrees. This is interesting. He has Jupiter 21 transiting his fourth house of home and family, and the mother of the zodiac, the house of the mom. And the sun is at 22. I don't know why that seems odd to me that he's a Scorpio. I swear, I never realized he was a Scorpio, but he's a Scorpio. That's a very intense sign. He just strikes me more as an earth person. It's probably the moon in the midheaven, or the moon, closer to the midheaven in Taurus, because he just has such and Saturn and Virgo does it too. But yeah, he just strikes me as, much more rigid kind of guy, which is Saturn in the second house in Virgo. But the sun in Scorpio, definitely he has a passionate side and he has a playful side, which you don't really think of him as having. But he has Mars in Sag, and Mars now is coming up in that sign for him. He's also got someone who's giving him a difficult time, I would say. Interestingly, it's associated with a child, so he might not necessarily get along with Harry's future wife, or they may be having some stress moments. But there's definitely a woman associated with his sun. Mars is the sun in the house, the fifth house. And Vesta, again, is that person who has, the keeper of the information. So she is probably a little bit of a thorn in his side right now. And then he's going to have that Mars approach his Mars-Jupiter conjunction. He has Mars, it's a wide conjunction, Mars at 20 and Jupiter at 29. And so as he has Mars hit his Mars-Jupiter in children, that's probably going to be something that happens right before his son actually gets married. Let's see when it is. So, wow, Mars is moving fast. Mars will be in Capricorn. I think they said they were getting married after the 15th. So Mars will be in Aquarius, and that'll actually be his natal house of marriage. So when Mars is in his house of marriage, he will have activity around marriage, which is interesting. So actually, that could be better for his relationship with Meghan Markle, because Mars in Aquarius, when she gets married, is much more humanitarian. And since it falls in his house of partnership, he might actually find that he likes her better after she's married to his son. Amazingly enough, but true. So I have to say also that there will be oppositions to his natal Pluto. So there's going to be kind of a generational conflict. And it is with the North Node on his Pluto right now, literally within 2 degrees of his Pluto. He's really having to learn how to transmute the energy of his own dogma around what he thinks of people and who he connects to. Obviously, he probably connects to a lot of stately, old, potentially white people, Anglo-Saxon. So, having the South Node in Aquarius and Mars will be there come the wedding, he's definitely going to have a challenge to his generational biases. So he has that to look forward to. Anyway, Jupiter leaving his 4th house, going on to Chiron. Jupiter is transition, and that could mean that, well, definitely it means that he's detaching from some type of family connectedness, and there could be a legality about it because it's Scorpio, and also inheritance. And then there's a Chiron. So this is really interesting energy with Jupiter going on to Chiron. As soon as it moves into the house of children, it gets out of the house of home and family, moves on to Chiron. That's a wounding. So he's seeing something that he's very deeply attached to. And let me tell you, anybody who knows a Scorpio, they're the most stubborn sign. They refuse to let it go until they burn everything down and know absolutely it cannot work out the way that they intended it to work out. So he has this idealism about him from the Scorpio, because Scorpios can be, idealistic. I mean, I might be biased because I have Neptune in Scorpio, so that probably makes me think of him a little more idealistically. They're not really idealistic, but he does have Neptune in Libra in the house of family, and it's right next to Venus also. So he has this personally, he has an idealized view of cooperation within the family unit. And then having Jupiter gone through Libra last year, it was much more pronounced for him, but he was also realizing that there may be some things that he wasn't really getting fulfilled in the family unit. And even honestly, from women within the family unit, Jupiter going over his Venus Neptune. So that meant he kind of had an epiphany moment last year. Jupiter was right there. And this year he's more willing to do something about it. And honestly, like I said, the Scorpio energy, they will burn it to the ground if they cannot make something move. They'll just say, forget it. I've done everything I can. It's obvious it's not going to change. So I'm out of here. I'm done. And so we may find that he's moving on to some new endeavor in his life. And honestly, you wouldn't think so, but you never know. There could be some child of his may pop up that we didn't know about, but you never know. And then Jupiter goes on as Chiron. Of course, Chiron's the wounded healer. So having Jupiter expansion on your Chiron, like right now I have Neptune on Chiron in my chart, and I feel like I'm actually healing the wounds on some level, if not with the other person in my chart that it affects, definitely within myself. And I'm learning to nurture myself and really express a more loving, embracing side of myself with Neptune on Chiron. But having Jupiter on Chiron and Scorpio is a wounding that comes from the fact that you see things a certain way. You've very clearly seen a situation black and white, and it isn't the way you would have it. And honestly, ironically, and like I said before, when you have something in a reading, everything's fair game. I just said black and white, and honestly, that's part of the issue I think that's coming up for him is his son is marrying a part African American woman. That's going to wound Charles in his house of children. That's his Chiron, that there is a deep wounding, and Jupiter is saying, but I have to be me. And he's also part of this. How he behaves is part of this. So he's having to expand. Jupiter is expansion, but it's also foreign entities, foreign people. And Meghan is nothing if not foreign to the Brits. So she's American, and that's coming into the family. And I think that's also an issue with him as well. And I would say because it's going from the house of home and family and the mother going into children, which is more of a father paternalistic energy, he's having to transition this energy from an ideology around the old school, around his mother, around his family of origin, and learn to focus on the children, which is his family. And that's coming in for him again. And that's also where the wounding is that feeling that he is not necessarily part of things. So Jupiter detaches in a sense and says, let go, just let it go. You need to take care of yourself. And we're going to see Prince Charles do more of that in the next year. So it's going to be interesting because I definitely think he has some issues with Meghan looking at this chart. Then we have Saturn going through his house of work and health. So he may be finding, that could be an energy of arthritis coming up. Again, the bones and the skeleton are affected. And if you're not paying attention to issues around structural responsibility and honestly the over need to control things within a work environment, he does have a strong sense of duty in his chart around the family business, so to speak. He doesn't have any planets in Capricorn, but Saturn's there and Pluto's there right now. And Saturn will be there for 2.5 years. And Pluto will be there through 2024. And so he's going to go through some major transitions. Definitely Saturn joining Pluto in Capricorn is going to have a major effect. And honestly, right now he's in an inconjunct with Pluto, which also hid to his identity around work and major shift and information coming out. So I would not be surprised if there's something coming out with Prince Charles also around something that nobody knew but is now coming to light. And also you have to remember, at least if you listen to the show, Capricorn rules England. So he's got Saturn and Pluto there, and as they inch closer and closer together, he's going through a major shift around work. So, I'm thinking the turn of the century is a very strong time for him. But he's also got a lot of direct hits to some of his planets, including a change in how he sees himself in the family unit. And I think he's getting stronger and he's starting to pull away. I mean, at his age, he's like 70 this year. So he's definitely feeling like, you know what, I'm going to go do my own thing. And I think he's finally got the courage to stand behind that. He has Uranus in Aries within 5 degrees of his moon, of course, in the house of career. Uranus in May could be a huge, huge thing for him and a potential for even taking the throne. Uranus on his moon is his mother's, an unexpected leaving. And, that's huge for his chart. He's also got Venus just going into his 8th house of death and rebirth, and Neptune just transiting out. Neptune is at 12 degrees. His cusp to the 9th house is 13 Pisces. So Neptune is the dream, and it's moving out of his house of like the father energy, but also death and rebirth and transitioning on 2 levels. One is a legal transition because it's the 8th house, the Scorpio house, And 2, it is going into the Sagittarius house, which is transformation and a new expression of energy, expansion around spirituality. So his chart's really getting triggered in a number of areas in the next few years, but definitely with Uranus going into Taurus, something could be happening. I'm just saying, yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening anyway, because, he's got a pretty active life. But anyway, I think that's all for Prince Charles for now. And I wish I had somebody on the line to do a reading for. I don't, but maybe I could do a reading for me, because I touch on my chart, but I don't really talk a great deal about it. So I will actually, for those of you listening who made it this far, I will give you my birth information. And that's a rarity. I don't generally talk about it. But my birthday is September 10th, 1964. And I was born at 9:18 a.m., Boulder, Colorado. So let's just see what is going on here real quick before everything gets wrapped up today. So I have a 0-degree Scorpio rising with, like I said, Moon at 12 Scorpio and Neptune at 15 Scorpio in my first house. So, of course, I have a lot of stuff around Mom, a lot of idealization going on there. And that's what I was talking about earlier about how you see other people and how you see the situation when you have planets in your first house. And so there's a blind spot that I have to myself, and it's a very deep energy. Moon is emotional, Neptune is hyper emotional in my first house. So I definitely was a child who grew up crying a lot, and I was so sensitive. Everyone's like, oh, you're so sensitive. I'm like, guess what? As an adult, yes, I am very sensitive. I have South Node at 28 Sagittarius in my house of money. I have Saturn at 025 retrograde Pisces in the house of home and family. I have Chiron at 16 Pisces in the house of children. And I have Jupiter at 26 Taurus in the house of marriage and partnership. North Node in Gemini at 28 in the 8th house. Mars and Venus are conjunct, but interestingly, in two different signs. And so Mars is at 27 Capricorn. Capricorn, I don't know why I said that. Cancer. Venus is at 2 degrees Leo. So Mars is where you express kind of the drive to do what you're supposed to do in this life. And so definitely educate is part of my life purpose. And then Cancer is domestic, around the house, and mom energy. So definitely I see myself as a mom, and it's in education and expansion and spirituality. So I do have a very strong drive towards all of that. And then Venus at 2 degrees Leo. So it's right on the midheaven within 4 degrees of my midheaven. So there is an attraction to celebrity and fame, although I don't particularly embrace it myself because I have Mercury at 4 Virgo in the house of career. I have Uranus at 10 Virgo just inside the cusp of the 11th house, which is the Aquarius house. So I have the ruler of the Aquarius house in the Aquarius house in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury and Uranus are very similar, but it's very intellectual, very thoughtful. And let me tell you, I do get a lot of information coming through. I really have opened up to listening more to my thoughts and what comes in, because it's like a claircognizant energy. Then within 4 degrees, I also have Pluto in Virgo, and I have the sun at 14 Virgo. So I've got a lot of intense energy in my chart with planets on the midheaven, a stellium in Virgo in the Aquarius house, Saturn in home and family in Pisces, very emotional, hidden, and to myself, more as in the latter half of my life than the beginning half of my life. I'm a very outgoing person generally with my Venus and Leo, but I think with Neptune and Pisces, I'm much more contained and reserved. And then since Saturn went through Virgo, which is about almost a decade ago, it really seems, and then Saturn went into my 12th, and I've had a real hard time recovering from that Saturn transit, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. and now and then Sagittarius. So hopefully within a decade, when Saturn gets into Aries, I might actually come out of my shell again. But right now, other than this show, it's really difficult for me to go out and be in the public eye. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening in this week. I hope you made it all the way to the end. If you did, go to Facebook and let me know you made it to the end. And check out, I also have an AstroEnergy page there. And let me see, I'm on Instagram at Astrologer Angel. And I have Dotted Sky on Instagram, and I'm also Artful Shelley on Instagram. So go check me out all over social media, because I'm really ramping up my presence there this year, and I really enjoy talking to you if you would like to talk to me. So if you want a reading, don't forget astrologerangel.com or Facebook at Astrologer Angel, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
The Starlight Lounge presents.
To subscribe, please click the picture of Shelley on the right or the red button below.